Welcome in to the Lady Vol Basketball Fever podcast, part of Vol Basketball Fever. We're a show dedicated exclusively to talking about the Lady Vols and news around the program. Tune in to hear thoughts and discussions from experts who cover the Lady Vols on a daily basis. Now, here's a new episode of the Lady Vol Basketball Fever podcast. Hello, Lady Vol fans, and welcome into another episode of the Lady Vol Basketball Fever podcast. I am Nathanael Rutherford here, joined by a special guest, my second player interview here on the channel, on the show, here on YouTube and on podcast. I am joined by Rickea Jackson, Mississippi State transfer, who's coming to Tennessee to play for Lady Vols. Rickea, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Very, very happy to have you on here. Again, I mentioned you're the second player I've been able to interview who's transferring to Tennessee. Another Michigan player, actually, from the state of Michigan. Of course, Jazz Powell from Minnesota is transferring into the Lady Vols as well. I'll ask you a little bit about some of that here in a second, but Rickea, thank you so much for hopping on and joining me here on the show. I got a lot of questions to ask you and a lot of things I'm sure Lady Vol fans are looking forward to hearing about, you and why you chose Tennessee and just kind of you as a person and not just as a player too. But I got to ask, first of all, you had, I'm sure when you announced you were transferring, I'm sure your phone blew up. I'm sure you and your family and stuff were hearing from everybody across the country, but obviously you ended up making the decision last week to come to Tennessee. So what made Tennessee stand out to you over the other schools that you were looking at and in this transfer process?
What made Tennessee stand out the most was probably the players. I can tell that when I visited the school, I just got this feel from the players that was really good. You even watching the games, you can see the little things, they're happy for one another. They're cheering for each other, no matter if they played 40 minutes or 0 minutes, they're going hard. And just to feel the love on campus when I came there. Of course, the coaches, they did a really good job as well, but it was really the players that probably just stood out to me.
So is it safe to say that culture and that kind of camaraderie was something you're looking for? That was kind of the biggest reason why Lady Vols kind of fit the thing you're looking for a new school?
For sure, 100%. I know teammates are my number one decision at this point. I just wanted to be in a place that was peaceful. Everyone had the same goal of winning. So that was definitely high on my list. So yeah.
Well, I know from listening here, and again, all Lady Vol fans listening to this or watching this on YouTube or listening to this on their podcast, you all probably know Vol Log podcast. And actually, I've had one of the hosts on the show, Jessica, on here as a guest host with me before. But I know from listening to your interview on there, Rickea, and I'll link that here in the description and a little card in the top right-hand corner on YouTube, that you had mentioned, you're pretty familiar with several people on Tennessee's coaching staff and the roster. So, I mean, did that play into it? Because I know, Jordan Horston, you guys were being recruited at the same time. You were recruited by both Coach Sam Williams and Joy at Tennessee, or not at Tennessee, but they're at Tennessee now. So did that kind of factor into your decision of that familiarity with the, some of the players on the roster and the coaches on the staff as well?
I feel like it made me more comfortable with making my decision, just knowing who they were, talking to them my freshman year. So I would say it made me more comfortable in making a decision of me seeing that my freshman year, they are the same people that they are now. So it was very just comforting, I'd say.
Well, good. So obviously, like I said, I know you know Jordan Horston. I know you know Sam and Joy. Who else on this team do you know? Because I know, again, you're from Michigan, so I don't know how well you know maybe Jazz or Jordan Walker, but I know that's, again, 3 Michigan players on the same team that's not a northern state or Midwestern state. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I know Jasmine Powell personally. We played on the same AAU team when we were younger. We played in the same area and things like that. So I've been knowing Jazz since probably 7th grade. So I definitely know her personally. I know of Jordan Walker, but I don't know her personally.
Well, so you mentioned you and Jazz have talked already, and of course, I've talked to Jazz too. Jazz seems like a great person, and she seems very personable. Have you all talked a lot, about the whole transfer thing? Have you all kind of reached out and talked to each other since you made the decision to come to Tennessee?
Yes, me and Jazz were speaking on it. We were just talking going to the same school, but if we had a love for different schools, we were still going to be for each other 100%. But when we both entered the portal, we definitely talked a little bit about the process. And she was just telling me schools that she was interested in, and I told her schools that I was interested in. And we were just saying, like, it would be crazy, if we played for the same team. So then we gave each other a little break, and we came back, and now we're on the same team. So it's just like pretty cool, like how it worked out.
That is pretty cool. And again, like it's crazy how things work out in the long run for especially like that. Like you said, you've known her since 7th grade. Now you get to be teammates for at Tennessee. So that's really cool. Well, I got to ask too. I know you've played in the SEC for 3 years now. You've played against Tennessee, but what was it like being not a player, not an opposing player in Thompson-Boling? What was it like actually coming in and having a visit? As I know you were obviously recruited by Tennessee as well while coming out of high school. What was it like kind of the second time around as a now a young woman who has been in the SEC for a few years and having that experience of a college player? What was the actual visit to Knoxville and Thompson-Boling and just the visit in general like for you this time?
Mm-hmm. The visit was absolutely amazing. To feel the love off campus, people driving, rolling down their windows, like, come to Tennessee. I definitely felt the love. And to go to the boys game and then the girls game the next day, just to see both atmospheres, it was pretty cool because, sometimes girls teams don't get a lot of like fans as a boys team does, but they get a great amount of fans. And I can just tell like the Tennessee fans, they go hard for their players. So it was a great visit. It was really nice. And the campus and all, it was just very pretty. And it just seemed so peaceful.
You were absolutely right about the fan support for the Lady Vols, Rickea. I'm very hopeful, and I said the same thing to Jas Powell as well. I'm very hopeful in your time on campus that you all get to see kind of the Lady Vol fandom of old, because they've always been very supportive of the program. But there are times back in the 90s and 2000s where they would average upwards of 16, 17, 18,000 fans at Thompson-Boling for Lady Vol games. So I'm hopeful. I know we'll talk maybe a second here about the kind of expectations for next year, but expectations are going to be high next year. And I imagine that there are going to be a lot of fans wanting to come see you all play next season, especially for hopefully some big time home games for the Lady Vols next year too. So when you came and visited, and we've been talking with, Coach Kelly Harper and the staff and everything, what's been their message to you? What were they saying to you about how they kind of envision you fitting into the program, what their vision is for you, and kind of how they could view you thriving in this program?
They definitely want me to work on my personal game, of course. They want me to be a team player, and they want me to be like the 3 and 4 position. They were just saying, they're going to push me and they see something in me and, that I'm a pro. So it was great to hear that. And, that they're just going to be there for me on and off the court, not just as coaches, but, as mentors, just being there for me mentally as well. So that was really comforting to hear that as well.
Well, good. That's very good. And I know that, coming from Mississippi State, I know when you went there, it's obviously Vic Schaefer was there, and then things obviously change, and coaching changes happen at every program too. But I know coming to Tennessee, Kelly Harper's been here for a few years. There's more stability and stuff in the program, it seems like, as well. I know winning is obviously, listening to the Vol Log podcast you did, that winning is a big thing for you. How much does that preach? Because again, to kind of go back to the expectations, I know next year there's going to be a lot of expectations. Lady Vols, it seems like every year under Kelly Harper have gotten better. Again, this year they've made it back to the Sweet 16 for the first time in 6 years. They got up to the top 5 in the AP poll. So how much did that factor into of kind of the prestige and the history of this program, and kind of looks like the upper trajectory of the program too?
Mm-hmm. That was a very high factor as well. I definitely want to touch foot on an NCAA floor for once in my life. Never did that before. COVID, coaching changes, didn't make it. So it was just a lot. That's a really big part that I feel like I'm missing in my college life. I want to be able to say, I won the SEC championship. I won the national championship. I want to be able to say those things. I competed for it. So I at least want to touch the NCAA floor. That would be great. But yeah, that's very high on my list. I definitely want to win. That's why I came to Tennessee. I feel like we have a lot of pieces. I feel like we have depth. I feel like, the team, they look like they just want to work hard and win and play for each other. And that's just the vibe I got when I went there. So that was like a huge thing. Like, I just want to win.
Well, if you want to go to the NCAA tournament, what better place to choose than the school that's never missed the NCAA tournament women's basketball? So, knock on wood, that streak will continue next year too. So, I really hope, Rickea, you get to live out that dream of, you said, just at least touching the NCAA tournament floor, but also hopefully making a nice run, because that would be super ideal for you and the Lady Vol program. So watching your game and seeing you play at Mississippi State, and I was also looking at some highlights and stuff before we started recording too, just to kind of refresh and everything too. I've always liked your game, and for what I saw at Mississippi State, the way you were able to move and kind of the athleticism you bring on the court there. What, in your opinion, are your strengths for the roster, and kind of how would you describe your game, and what are you bringing to this Lady Vol roster?
I feel like my strengths are my quickness, my confidence, my ability to get to the rim. I feel like I have really good footwork, and I'm very calm on the court. I try not to let things like get me rattled or anything. Yeah, I feel like those are pretty much my strengths.
Well, I know you can score. You put up 40 against McNeese State earlier this year. You're already leading, I think, the SEC in points per game this year. In the games you played there, you averaged 20 points per game this season. I mean, I know you can score, but I also look at the fact, you're not afraid to shoot the three, but you also, 6'2", you're able to, as you mentioned, get to the rim easy, but you're also able to rebound, average almost 7 per game this season. I know Kelly Harper well enough to know that defense and rebounding is something she preaches hardcore. That's the Lady Vol way. Is that something that she mentioned to you that, hey, we value this a lot, we're going to expect this a lot from you, is playing really good defense and rebounding?
Yes, that too as well, definitely. Like, they definitely want me on the glass. I don't say like rebounding is my strength, at least right now, because to some people 7 is a lot. When I know I can get more, like, I definitely can do way better than 7 rebounds a game. That's why I would just be like, well, I would have to prove that I can do that before I can say like that's a strength of mine, because I know I can do it. But yeah, 7 isn't really a lot of rebounds to me. I want to get like way more than that.
Well, hey, it's a lot to me, Rickea. So, as someone who has never played college basketball, 7 rebounds is a lot for me. But to get and go off court a little bit and kind of get to know you as a person, because you're obviously a lot more than just a player. Lady Vol fans love to get to know the personalities and the players off the court a lot too. So, what are some things Lady Vols fans should know about you? What are you studying? What are you coming in here to major with? What are some things that you're interested in outside of the court as well? Because I think you have a very fun personality. So I think you have a lot of stuff that Lady Vol fans will be very interested to hear about.
Yeah, my major is communications. I definitely want to go into like some sort of broadcasting or something. Things outside of basketball that I like to do. I like to shop a lot. Like, I love clothes. I love shoes. I have 2 dogs. One name's Fendi. I can show you. This is Fendi. She's a Yorkie poo. Say hi.
Hi, Spendy.
Yeah, Fendi with the F. Like,
oh,
F.
my bad. Yeah, my
It's
bad.
okay. Okay. This is Vinci, my Bopti Havanese or something. I forgot what he is, but this is Vinci, my big boy. Yeah, so these are my 2 dogs. They are so spoiled. I love spoiling them. Yeah, other than that, like,
so you got to spoil the dogs. And for all those who are just listening to this, you got to go to the YouTube and check it out. Those are some absolutely adorable dogs. Well, that's awesome, Rickea. I know there's a couple other questions I was kind of wanting to follow up on and ask both off the court and on the court, but I don't want to take up too much more of your time. But I do want to say, is there anything else you want Lady Vol fans to know? You coming here or anything about, anything at all before we get off here? Is there anything else you want Tennessee fans to know about you or about, just anything in general?
That I'm very passionate. Like, I'm a very passionate person. If I love something, I'm going to put my all into it. I love to have fun. Yeah, like, I'm just happy to be here. Well, not physically yet, but I'm happy committed to such an amazing university with an amazing fan base. And I'm just so excited, and I'm so ready to get on the court and play for you guys. And I really hope that I make you happy and proud of the team and us in general. And yeah, we're going to do some great things next year or this year.
Yeah, no, it's hard to, I say next year too, and technically it's, the season starts this year, but I get what you're saying. That did remind me of one of the things I wanted to ask you is, as I kind of touched on earlier, the expectations for next season with you coming in, with Jazz coming in, with, Jordan Horston, coming back again next year for the Lady Vols too. You have Tamari Key, you have Jordan Walker, you have a lot of the bench players for the Lady Vols who are younger this year, who are now a year older. You have a 5-star Justine Passat coming in. I think Lady Vol fans are, and I know it myself too as a fan, very, very excited and looking forward to what next season can bring. I know, as a player, you kind of try to block out expectations and stuff, but what are, again, I know you haven't even had a chance to practice with the team yet, or like you said, you're not even in Knoxville right now. What are your expectations for yourself, and kind of how do you deal with, very high, lofty expectations being placed on you and on your team?
My expectations for myself is just to play my game and always remain level-headed. Personally, I fall back on my work ethic, and I know like I'm a gym rat, so I don't really let things like outside noise get in my head anymore. I feel like I've been in college for 3 years now, so I'm very comfortable and familiar with the game. So it's kind of easy when you know how much you're in the gym and you know how much you work hard to focus on that. I can honestly say it took me a long time to get to the mental space that I am with basketball, but it's like I said, when you fall back on your work and your practice and things of that sort, your repetition, it's hard to go wrong with that. And I feel like my work will show that. And I feel like that's what keeps me so calm and sane. Like, even if I'm missing 3 shots in a row in the game, I'm so calm because it's like, I know it's going to fall. I've been working on this every day. Like, it's eventually going to fall. The old me would have been like, coach, take me out. Take me out. Like, I missed 2. Take me out. I'm not shooting no more. But yeah, so I feel like when you like are very consistent in the gym, like you're at a certain level of comfortability with yourself and knowing what you're capable of. And I feel like that's just where I am.
That's really good. And that leads me to a question too of, you can look at things you've improved physically, from year in and year out, from your freshman year to where you are now as a player. But would you say actually, like as you just mentioned, the biggest area you've grown in is actually mentally on the court?
For sure.
That's awesome. That's exciting. And that's great. And I think, just talking about the mentality of the game, I don't think it's talked about enough. People, I think, like to assume that, I don't think it's as much in the women's game, but I noticed a lot in the men's game, assuming that players are just kind of like video game characters where they just kind of can turn it on, turn it off. But you're right. Like the mental part of it is just as important, if not more important than the physical part of it. And if you're off mentally, it can affect a lot of things on the court for you. So you're absolutely right. It's awesome to hear that you've been able to overcome some of that stuff and have more confidence in yourself and be calmer on the court. That's awesome. Rickea, this has been phenomenal. I can't thank you enough for coming on here and joining me here on the Lady Vol Basketball Fever podcast. Again, Lady Vol fans, y'all are going to love Rickea. Great personality. Looking forward to seeing you on the court in orange. Rickea, I'm assuming you've already got some Lady Vol gear?
I actually do. I do.
Good.
Dogs though, I got to get them some little Tennessee outfits.
Oh, when you come to Knoxville, there are going to be plenty of places you can check out. They're going to have outfits for your dog, so don't worry about that. You'll have plenty of places to check out.
Great, I love that.
Well, Rickea, thank you again so much, and for all you Lady Vol fans listening along, thank you all so much for listening and /watching this. You can subscribe to the channel here. Check out, I'll put up here too the interview I had with Jazz as well, so you can check that out. Both incoming players for Tennessee. Very excited about both you coming to Knoxville and joining the Lady Vol program. Thank you again, Rickea. Thank you all, Lady Vol Nation, again, listening in, watching in here. I'm Nathanael Rutherford, and this has been another episode of the Lady Vol Basketball Fever podcast.
Bye, guys.